Woohoo!
Hey, my friend.
Look at you boogieing over there.
I know.
Go.
It's a short work week.
It's a short work week. Yeah, because it was Labor Day yesterday. I thought it was Monday all day, and then kind of thought it was Wednesday. And then there was just I was all messed up. Yeah. So did you have a good week?
You like the Labor Day stuff?
I mean, just the week since I last saw you.
Oh, it was all right.
Oh, we should probably say who we are. Hey, everybody. Hey.
Howdy. This is another week of Case Files
with Kat
and Ashley.
We're here.
It's been a long week already.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I had a pretty easy weekend, I guess. I didn't really do much of anything. Relaxed. Went and saw a Cure tribute band.
Nice.
I love them. The Boys Don't Cry. They're always so good.
I think my cousin was there.
Yeah, they're always so good.
Did he have a long beard?
Boys Don't Cry?
No, my cousin was there at the show.
Oh, I don't know. There was lots of people with very long beards.
Oh, really? Yeah. Anyway, I was like, why don't you tell people you're coming into town? Because he lives out in Katy.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, that's what I did.
That's fun. I binge watched Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself.
Ah, yes. I just started that.
So good. I don't know what took me so long. I never even heard of it.
Yeah, me either.
Never heard of it. And then I was just like, oh, this looks interesting. And I started watching.
I think Netflix just started pushing it because, like I said, I finished the show I was watching and then like was looking for something that has background noise. And that was like what popped up on like suggested shows.
Yeah.
And I started watching it. And I'm addicted. Even though there's only 2 seasons.
It's so good. And it was worth it. It was worth it. It was worth the journey. It was definitely worth the journey. Anyway, what are you drinking tonight?
So Kat got me this one called Rico Tapache. Sure. Tapache. Bien Frio. It is fermented pineapple wine with pineapple juice, spices, and natural flavors. And I looked up what tapache means, and that's the way we're going to say it from now on. And it's a fermented beverage made from the peel and the rind of pineapples and is sweetened with brown sugar, and it is sometimes seasoned with chili powder and served cold. To me, when I drink it, I don't taste pineapple at all. I taste the ginger that's in it. There's ginger in it. It tastes like straight ginger. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that's the taste that I get from it. But it says on the back of the can, it says that it's a fusion inspired by the deep-rooted traditions of pre-Hispanic Mexico. Yeah, you already know I can't say it. Mexico, and loaded with the refreshing pineapple. It says it's got, I don't know how to say that word, Kat.
Which one?
Chio. I'm so sorry to everyone that can speak Spanish.
Yeah, I can't.
Cinnamon and ginger.
Oh, interesting.
Anyways, it says to serve over ice in a clay mug or drink straight from the can.
Okay, well, you're doing
Anyways, that. It is. It's doesn't really have a lot in it, but it says the least
is very
is tapache, pineapple juice, brown sugar, cinnamon, and ginger extract, and all I taste is the ginger.
Oh,
it's good though. I mean, it's good. I like stuff like that. So
okay, well, I'm drinking a Carbach. It's called Rodeo Clown Double IPA. Oh, it tastes like another beer I had, and it's like it's malty. Yeah, it has like a malty sort of a coffee. It's heavier than a normal. I don't normally do double IPAs anymore, but I'm trying to prove a point for Jason that this actually does taste very malty. I have no interest in reading this because I can't, and I don't have my I don't have my readers on. But anyway, it's a double IPA, 9.5%. Oh, it's about to go down.
I used to love Carbach. They had some of the best stouts, and they had like these bourbon barrel aged beers, but they don't make them anymore because they say they want to focus on like the commercial beers.
To me, this is like heading to a stout. It's a very, it has like a coffee, like there's
I don't believe you.
There's
like
a
double IPA that tastes like coffee stout.
It has like a malty coffee thing. Like there's a reason that there's other one. We both took a sip of this. It was like, I forget what the name of it is. It's a new one. And I was like, very malty, and it's like something I've
unique.
tasted before. And then, so it's this. This is what it tastes like to me.
Alrighty.
And I feel like double IPA, I'm just a normal, non-hazy IPA. I've become very focused in my IPA drinking. I'm just like, woof, double IPAs are a lot. But we'll see how I make it by the end of this episode. I'm gonna be lit. Just kidding.
I have a lot to say.
Okay, so just go.
I don't know that I will finish I'm gonna try because, anyways.
We're only 6 minutes in. We're all right.
Yeah, I know.
We're all right.
So I have never done a 2-parter before, but I had this thing that, like, there was this crime that happened, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was going to do it, and I started researching it, and oh my God, the facts of this case are insane. So I started going down this rabbit hole about the crime that originally happened, which I'm going to talk about in part 2, because I feel like I need to tell you the history of the man that committed this crime first, because you need to be as angry and upset as I am when I tell you what he did and how the judicial system really, really, really let down these victims.
Oh, shit.
And,
we do so many stories like that, and it's such a shame.
I will tell you that the crime that I'm going to finish with tomorrow involves the death of 5 children. Oh. And it could have been 1,000% preventable when you hear his criminal history, when you hear all of this stuff. So I'm going to talk about him today on part 1. And then part 2 next week is going to be about the mother, because I need you to understand when I talk about her, I'm not victim blaming. She is very much part of the problem in this situation. And then I'm going to talk about the actual crime and talk about the victims and who they were. So I'm going to start backwards because I think it's important to hear his criminal history. Okay.
Let me get my Kevin button ready.
Okay. So I'm going to get started. So again, the man that committed the crime is Jesse Lee McFadden. And he was born, I put 1883. He was born in 1983 to LaDonna Jean McFadden, who was 18. She was born in 1983, but I put 1883. Do what? What?
That name sounds really familiar.
He was born in Oklahoma.
That name sounds really familiar.
Okay, well, Jesse Lee McFadden was born in 1983 to LaDonna Jean McFadden at the age of 18. She actually got pregnant when she was 17. There was no father listed on his birth certificate, and LaDonna never indicated who the father might be. There is a podcast I listened to that is amazing, and it was so in-depth on this case. They had a 2-hour and 10-minute podcast about Jesse and his background and his history and all of this stuff, which is where a lot of this information came from. Then they had a separate podcast all about Holly, which is the mother of the children. And then they had a separate podcast episode with some of his survivors. So they get police records and they contact prisons and they do all of this very detailed, in-depth investigative reporting, kind of. There's 3 of them, and they just do all of this research. So I highly recommend it. It's like they have so many cases that they just dive into, and they make them like 3 or 4 parts, like little mini series, basically. So anyways, their podcast said that they did some digging, and they believe they found the father. They believe the father is a man named Burl Alton Blair, who would have been 44 when Jesse was born, making it a 27-year difference between him and LaDonna, who was a minor when she got pregnant. So...
How many years?
27. He was 44, she was 17. Jesse also had a younger brother named Cody. Cody and Jesse had a very strained relationship. As I go on, you will see that Jesse was a long-time violent criminal, but Cody was also a violent criminal. At the age of 35, Cody was arrested for kidnapping, maiming,
Oh my God.
Assault with a dangerous weapon with intent to do bodily harm, and assault resulting in serious bodily injury. He kidnapped a woman, locked her in a dog cage, and threatened to shoot her with a crossbow before she was able to make an escape.
Oh my God, she escaped?
Yes, and she was found with numerous injuries, and she was bleeding, and she told the police that not only had he locked her up and threatened to shoot her, but he had kept poking her with sticks, and he had an extension cord that he had tried to shock her with. She went on to tell them that she was only able to escape from the cage when Cody struck the cage with an axe so hard the cage got bent, and she was able to get out of it and run from the residence through a broken window.
Oh my gosh.
She told deputies that she truly thought that she was going to die. So the day after Cody's arrest, the deputies conducted a search of his home where they found the cage and other things to back her up. They also unfortunately found the charred remains of a dog. So
the dog that was in the cage originally,
I guess, probably.
God damn.
So just from the beginning, we have a father that's not in the picture, that was grooming and forming a sexual relationship with minors, obviously. A young mother who doesn't have a stable support system. She was very much, as stories play out, she was very much an enabler for Jesse and some of the things that he did. And a younger brother who was just as violent as he was, right? They both were sexually assaulting women and attacking them. And so there were some reports that claim LaDonna and Burrell are married, but she didn't take his last name. And so I don't know if that's true, like if they're actually married or if they just said that so like he wouldn't get, you know, it wouldn't be such a thing.
Common law or whatever, maybe. Ugh.
He's not really mentioned very much throughout the rest of the story and the history and stuff. She's mentioned a lot.
He was in his 40s.
He was 44 and she was 17 when Jesse was born.
So he's probably dead now.
Maybe.
Okay.
So as far as Jesse goes, it is later on in life, comes out that they think that Jesse's first victim was his own brother. Oh my God. They were 5 years apart, and Jesse used to be tasked with watching Cody because LaDonna would come in and out. She was doing whatever she wanted to do, drinking, drugs, whatever. Like, she just wasn't there a lot. And so Jesse was responsible for watching him. And it is assumed that at some point, Jesse sexually abused him.
And how much older was he?
5 years.
Oh, God.
So around the age of 16, Jesse was supposed to be in the 9th grade. Technically, there are no records of him being in school past the 6th grade. However, they do think he at least went to 8th grade. So
he could have homeschooled, but she didn't.
No, he was in school. Well, the thing is, he was on a school bus. So he had to have been enrolled in school at the age of 16. So they think that the furthest grade he could have been in was 9th grade. Anyways, he was on the bus. And there was a girl who was in 6th grade. And she was sexually assaulted by him on the bus. Now, she didn't come forward publicly with this until the crime that happened most recently was in the news. She discovered that there had been another survivor named Crystal, who we will talk about in a little bit. And Crystal played a big part in, her case helped get him sent to prison originally, but we'll talk about that. So anyways, she called Crystal when she found out about her and told her about being sexually abused on the bus. So according to this girl, she said that Jesse threatened to kill her if she told anyone, but she did go home that day and tell her mother. Her mother called LaDonna and LaDonna said she would handle it and asked the mother to keep it under wraps. I imagine she probably said something along the lines of that shit we always hear, boys will be boys, he's young, I'll make sure I'll talk to him, that kind of thing. That's not a quote from anywhere, but that's the kind of mother she was, and that's the kind of attitude he had, right? Like, he didn't have consequences. Boys will be boys. She just didn't want it to get out in the public. So she was going to tell this mother whatever she needed to. So The girl goes on to say that her family basically told her herself not to ever speak about it again, to keep it hidden. It'll be a secret. The fact that he chose a child younger than him and threatened her was already a major red flag of what would be to come. He was already exhibiting signs of a sex predator, seeking someone who he could have control over, abusing her, threatening her if she told anyone, and honestly, it just fucking goes downhill from here. He hardly ever faced real consequences for any of his actions.
Mamas.
She was a young mom. She was drinking, partying.
I know. God, we
didn't really care.
It's the, like I'm listening to the story, and I'm sure you're seeing my face, and you're probably wondering what's going on in my brain, because I just had a memory, and I haven't remembered it before.
Oh damn.
I just had a memory of being 10 years old and walking down we had it wasn't an alley, but there was the main street where the front door was. And then there was like a back street where you would turn in to get into your garages. Mm-hmm. So there was like a street, a back street, and then another street. So all of our backyards sort of faced one another, with these like alley. And I was walking down after, I think it was track, and I went running, and then I was walking home because I was just down the block. And these kids came, these boys, and they grabbed me. They touched me. And I ran home, and my mother said, boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't taken seriously.
Unfortunately, it gets said so much.
I was 10.
Yeah.
And I haven't never remembered that before. And to mamas, boys will be good humans.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first shirts I ever bought, Anderson.
Yeah.
It said boys will be, and it said boys will be boys, but the boys was crossed out, and it said good humans.
Yeah.
Boys will be good humans. And that's probably why I bought that. Wow. Thanks, Ashley.
I'm sorry.
Throwing things at her. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
Ooh, I'm getting hot.
So, like I said, he didn't really face consequences for that. It was later discovered at this time he was doing drugs, and he dropped out of school before the end of 9th grade. It was confirmed that at most, maybe mid-9th grade. So fast forward to Jesse.
He had to have been enrolled because he was on the bus, right?
At that time. Yes.
Okay.
But he dropped out shortly after that because he started doing drugs and just not wanting to be in school. And again, did not have parents who cared at all. So we're going to fast forward a couple of years to Jesse being 19, because there's not a whole lot of information on what he was doing when he was 17 and 18, but most likely just doing drugs and partying. I mean, that's the kind of life that he was wanting to live. So on December 20th, 2002, he steals $64,000 from his grandfather's home in Pittsburgh County, Oklahoma.
How does he do that?
So, I don't know why his grandfather had $64,000 in his home, but a lot of people made the assumption that,
he was hiding it in the mattresses.
Well,
maybe.
A lot of people didn't trust banks,
right.
Like people from that generation. Right. And so, but the thing was that Jesse had always claimed to really look up to his grandfather. This was the grandfather on LaDonna's side. So LaDonna's father.
Okay.
Yeah. And claimed to be very close to him. So why did he steal this money? I think that speaks even more volume to the just giant piece of shit he was. I don't know why he stole the money. He never said why he stole the money. He never told anyone why he stole the money.
Probably because he could.
Probably for drugs. I mean, realistically, he was doing drugs. His mother was doing drugs. Probably for drugs.
How did he not OD? What kind of
when
drugs?
you're partying with people and you're buying their drugs, you know, you get a lot of friends when you have a lot of money and a lot of drugs. So his grandfather, though, filed charges. He was not playing around. He was not like LaDonna, and he was going to make Jesse pay.
Yeah.
So before he goes to court for this, the following February, on February 14th, Jesse pleads no contest to a speeding ticket. He had a suspended license at the time, and he was going 98 in a 70-mile-per-hour road.
Hey.
This case gets dismissed, even though he was charged with grand larceny. He was out. He gets charged with a suspended license, speeding, case dismissed. The judge on this case is James Bland, and the attorney is Joe Ladden. And Joe Ladden is important to remember because he is his attorney several other times. So March 20th was his arraignment for the grand larceny charge, and this time he claims he had no money, even though he had just stolen $64,000. So where did this money go? Who knows? He tells people that the money, later on, he tells people that the money was placed into an account before it could be seized, so that the money could have switched hands. It could have been in an account somewhere. I mean, he was on drugs at the time, so it's possible he did spend that money. Others speculate that LaDonna was actually in on the scheme of stealing the money, because how else would he have known that his grandfather had $64,000? How did the money get gone so fast? So they think that she may have been part of that theft, and that her and Jesse planned it together, and that she hid the money after he got arrested. So
it doesn't say what kind of relationship she had with her dad or anything like that.
Very strained. There was accusations or assumptions that she might have been sexually abused by him, and there was actually some assumptions that he might actually be Jesse's dad. But there was nothing, none of that was ever, I couldn't find any confirmations on that, so that's why I didn't really include it, but there was some speculation that may have been the situation.
God, is there any way to do DNA at this point?
So, again, his own mother was enabling him to just do this crap. So, he is officially charged with grand larceny on March 23rd. Sitting on this case, again, was Judge James Bland, D.A. Chris Wilson, and Jesse's attorney, which was different than the first one, is Jeremy Bieber. So in 2003, okay, so let me back up. He did not go to jail for this at the time. He was out on bail because he claimed he didn't have money to pay back the money. So if he was in jail, how would he get a job to pay back the money? So that was kind of their thought process. Okay, so
whose thought process? The judge's thought process? Go to fucking jail.
He had been charged with it. He was currently out free at this time, right? Posted bail, whatever. Okay. He was supposed to be working. He had all of these requirements that he had to fulfill as part of not being in jail, right? He had to get a job, he had to pay restitution, he had to attend these classes, right? Did he do any of that? Fuck no. In 2003, Jesse... Okay,
I need more things to throw at you.
Jesse... I'm sorry. It's going to get a lot.
Where's that piece of foam? I need that piece of foam back.
Really bad, really fast. In 2003, are you coming over here to hit me?
No. I'm grabbing this little piece of foam.
In 2003, Jesse sexually assaults a woman named Crystal Strong. She's 16.
Is this the woman that was the impetus for the first girl to come forward?
Yeah. Well, yes.
Okay.
This is the one that gets him sent to prison.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
When he assaulted her, he walked over 6 miles to get to her home, pushed his way through her door, covered her face with a cloth, and drugged her.
He knew her.
He knew of her. He knew her friends.
He walked 6 miles, so he knew her.
He knew her. He knew that was his plan. It was not a random girl that he saw. He knew what he was going to do, and he walked 6 miles to do it. He was very violent with her and very controlling with her. He got her to the ground, tied her to the bed, and violently attacked her. The attack was so violent that she truly thought that he was going to kill her. When he finished, he starts pacing back and forth, and he's telling her to clean up, to wash their clothes. And experts later on said that made them feel like this was not his first time doing this. Because the first time you do that to a woman, you're not immediately like, oh, I need to cover my tracks by making her take a shower and, do this and do that. Like, she said he was very, detailed about the things he expected her to do after this attack.
Not with an 8th grade education.
Yeah. Like, he was I think 19 or maybe 18 or 19 at this time.
Yeah. So with an 8th grade education.
Yeah. So in these moments when he's telling her to clean their clothes and stuff, she is able to escape. She runs for it.
Holy shit.
She calls the cops, they come, but the sexual assault was so brutal, the doctors told her that she would never be able to have children of her own. And she was 16.
Oh my God.
This was 7 months after Jesse was convicted of grand larceny. Why was he not in fucking jail? I don't understand. So anyways, he was on probation, but this was clearly a violation.
I'm about to flip this table over.
The deal was he wouldn't go to prison if he had followed all of the requirements while on probation. He hadn't done a single one of them, and then he sexually assaults this young woman so bad. And so just to recap, he's 19 at this point, and he's sexually abused a girl on a bus. He has stolen $64,000 and been charged with grand larceny. He's been arrested going high rates of speed with a suspended license, and he has committed a sexual assault, a very violent sexual assault, all by the age of 19.
What's up with this judge? He needs to be voted out.
So the reason that they think Cody was his first victim is because of what Crystal says happened when she goes back to school. So she said there was a very strange instance when she went back. She says she was walking through the hallway and Cody had found out about the assault and that she was pressing charges. And she said the way that he reacted and responded to her wasn't of hate. It wasn't like, I can't believe you're accusing my brother, but more of, I feel your pain. I understand what you're going through. Which is why many believe that Cody did understand what she was going through, because he was who Jesse first assaulted. Because Jesse did not have a preference of men, women. He was all over the place.
It was about power and control.
Yeah. So something I didn't mention, because I was talking about the Crystal Strong incident, is that when Jesse was arrested for this grand larceny case and he was filling out the paperwork to get, the free attorney if you can't afford one, he indicated that he was actually married. He was married to a woman named Stephanie McFadden. Now, there's no records of the divorce or that he was even dating anyone, but what is speculated is that she's real. She is a real person, but they think that because they were 19 and he went to prison, that the marriage was annulled. And that she may have been in the military, and so she was traveling, and that it was kind of one of those deals where you get extra money for being married. So she didn't actually know what Jesse was doing. You know what I mean? Like, she was not even here.
But, oh my God.
So Stephanie is...
you're still tied to that man.
Stephanie is currently living in North Carolina and will not speak in interviews. So she is alive. She is a real person. It was confirmed that they were married. It is assumed that the marriage was annulled because they were so young. And he went to prison. So he's been in jail since January of 2004 at this point. So it's now February. Jesse goes to this, he's just been in jail. So he goes to this assessment center that goes over things like what you need treatment wise, right? Like the kind of courses you'll have to take, the kind of rehab, the things that, the goals and stuff that you want out of your time in prison. So they do this, and then they send him to his first prison. And I say first prison because apparently he can just request to move prisons whenever he wants. So
what?
I will get to that. His first prison is Mac H. Alford Correction Center. So he goes here, and he almost immediately alleges that he's been threatened, and if he stays here, he will be beat up. So they actually approve a prison transfer. Now, he transfers prisons, like I mentioned a few times, and one of those, they're all intentional on his part. They're all intentional. Each prison offers a different program, and the ease of getting contraband in, like the ease of that is what really drives him to transfer so many times, because he has to have a cell phone at all times, like just different shit. So in this prison, which is the second one, he has his first infraction. So if you don't know what that is, an infraction is defined as the least severe type of offense in the criminal justice system. This is the technical term, but usually it means like whatever was done is something minor and the punishment will not be anything severe. You can also hear to it being referred as petty offenses. So if you commit one of these infractions while in prison, a judge will be able to decide if you should be sentenced to additional time, or you know, like whatever, like you go to solitary confinement or whatever. So this first one is for having tobacco. He's been here only 60 days and he already has his first infraction. He gets sent to the SHU for this, which is a special housing unit. It's known as solitary confinement. Jesse is supposed to be in here March 12th through March 27th of 2004. During this time where he's supposed to be getting punished and he's supposed to be in solitary confinement, he gets moved to a different prison, and he is now at the Great Plains Correction Facility, prison number 3. The reason for this move is because he was actually earning points while in the SHU when he shouldn't have been allowed to. The SHU was supposed to be his punishment, and in the middle of this punishment, on March 24th, he was moved, like I said. And if you are unfamiliar with prisons and what points are or credits, they have a point system in prison, and that is referred to the method used to evaluate and manage your inmate behavior, classification, privileges that you may get, time served. They earn or lose points based on their behavior, participation in programs. And so when you're in solitary confinement, you're supposed to lose points. You're not supposed to gain points. He was getting points and a promotion and moved to a higher point system while serving this infraction, because the American judicial system is just... So again, he got moved here on March 24th and is promoted from credit earning level 1 to credit earning level 2, which means he earns credits and points even faster. So again, he was earning credits and points while in the SHU, and so he was earning credits and points in the SHU, and being transferred to the third prison was also one of his requests. So while he was supposed to be being punished, his prison transfer request is granted. He doesn't even have to finish his punishment, and he's still earning credits. So on the paperwork at this facility, one of the questions is, have you been to solitary confinement at any time? And he said yes, but it was for administrative purposes, not because he got in trouble. And because apparently they just trust violent inmates to use the honor system, they just went with it. They just went with it. They're
just
like,
believed him. Oh my God.
We put people in solitary confinement for administrative purposes.
Just because, you know.
So between April 4th and April 12th, 2005, he was working as an A-pod orderly. The reason that this is important to note...
I wonder if they believed him because of his offenses, that he would be particularly targeted.
That was the first prison transfer. He requested this prison transfer just because he wanted a different prison. The reason it's important to note that he has these jobs at all is because every 120 days they do evaluations in prison. The largest part of that is your work at prison. So this is what helps assist with your credits, and this is why he was so stuck on having a job. So even later on, when he has more infractions, he still manages to keep a job, which is super weird because they would normally remove your privileges when you get infractions, right? Like they take away points, you lose your job privileges because like having a job in prison is a privilege to help get you out faster and whatever, right? It looks good. So, excuse me. He also takes several courses and earns his GED because those all earn him a lot of credits and points. On April 25th, Jesse asked the staff for his records to be changed. The next part is a direct quote from him, so please do not come for me. He said he did not want to be housed with the blacks because he had many family members that were part of the Klan and he was raised in the Klan, and he himself was a racist and wants his record updated so he never has to be housed or near any black person ever. They granted this request, and in June 2005, he receives a second infraction. This time he had 20 cigarettes in his possession. His punishment this time is he gets bumped to credit level 1 for 60 days. At credit level 1, he isn't supposed to be earning credits, but oh my God, he is. In August 2005, he was working, even though he's been getting in trouble, he was being demoted. Between September and December, he attends a few more courses to earn more points. And his record didn't really indicate what class that was, but again, he was just earning all of these points by taking all these classes and certifications. All in
Oklahoma?
Yes.
All of it?
All of it. In addition to changing prisons, he would also change beds frequently. In 1 year, he changed beds 26 times. And bed changes can happen with demotions. Your cellmate has to make a complaint about you, or you complain about your cellmate. So that just means they move you to another cell. 26 motherfucking times. Are you kidding me? Why was this request continuously granted? And if all 26 times were because his cellmates were complaining about him, maybe fucking look into him. Like, what the fuck? So, again, his records didn't show why he has these bed changes, and the records are supposed to show each and every time why a bed change is made, and his records did not show those. So, later that year, his grandfather, the one that he stole the $64,000 from, passes away, and he submits a request to attend the funeral. Which is odd because he hadn't talked to his grandfather since the grand larceny charges. His grandfather was not on the visitors list, not on the call list, and they had no communication, but he wanted to leave the prison to go to this funeral. Everyone but one person approved his request, so he didn't get to go because everyone had to approve it. The one person that didn't approve it because they knew his charges and they knew that they were very serious and very violent, and he felt like this just shouldn't be granted. Like, this is a weird request. And so I feel like this is the one person who had common sense throughout all of this story.
Who was it?
It was just someone on the approval process. It didn't specify a name.
Well, we
are
hero.
Only in 2005. So
I know.
Between the crime happened in 2023 that I'm going to be talking about. We're only in 2005, guys. Between December 2005 and March 2006, he attends a course called Cage Your Rage. He actually attends this twice.
Cage Your Rage?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a necessary course for him. He had to pass it. He continues to get promotions. Every time he has a 120-day review, he gets promoted. He keeps doing courses. It's just a repeating cycle. So in 2009, he gets a 5th prison infraction. I know I skipped 3 and 4, but that's because they were all cigarette related, tobacco related. This infraction, though, is for consensual sex with another offender. They don't take away any credits. He just gets sent to the SHU for like 20 days, loses no credit whatsoever, nor does he get demoted. He doesn't lose his prison job.
What about the other guy?
Nope.
Okay.
In 2010, he gets his 6th prison infraction for sexual activity. However, this time, the other inmate was claiming that Jesse raped him. And he even had a rape kit done, which, you know, for a man, that's a lot to come forward and say. I mean, yes. Truly, especially in prison. So, for whatever reason, though, there is no record of how they came to this conclusion, but they concluded that the man was not raped by Jesse. However, that inmate still sticks to his claim that he absolutely was. Jesse was only placed in the SHU while the investigation was happening, and then they let him out as soon as they concluded that there was no rape. They never specified how they concluded that again. Only 2 weeks later, he gets into an altercation with an inmate and ends up with a black eye. Again, nothing happens to him. In December 2010, he is approved for a program for in-cell arts and crafts. In order to qualify for this year-long program, you have to be a level 4, which is insane to me that he made it to level 4. And what being in this program allows the inmate is to have supplies in their cell, which means Jesse uses these materials to write victims, to write potential victims. just so many things during his time in jail just don't add up to me. Like, why would you allow this man?
Don't they read what he writes, though? Don't they monitor? They don't.
They do, but like, if you're just talking to women, I mean, if you're not admitting to a crime in these letters, you know what I mean? Like, you're just...
But if they're victims...
They're not victims yet. So during his time in jail, lots of things, like I said, don't add up. So another one of those things that don't add up is that all of his records, it shows he was only visited once by his attorney, which is not true. His attorney would come quite frequently. He would miss work days and not get in trouble. And when you miss a work day, you're supposed to get infractions for missing work because like you're in prison. So it's not like your car broke down. So like, what the fuck? And he wasn't sick. It wasn't like he was in the infirmary or anything. He was just missed work. He just decided not to go.
The infirmary.
Yeah, whatever. They're also supposed to show you a start and stop date for every job. And there were large gaps in his records. They're also supposed to say...
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, this is not Shawshank Redemption. Okay, so Shawshank was a pretty good indicator of like how jobs went. You work hard, you do the job. If you don't show up,
it's a privilege. It's a privilege to have.
It's a privilege to have a job, even though it's hard and it sucks. But he's just getting let off and just every time he messes up, it's no big deal. And they just ignore everything. They're just ignoring everything. And they're giving him rewards for fucking up and not doing anything.
We're only on like infraction 5 or 6, I think. I don't know, 6, so they're also supposed to say if you lose a job and if you miss days, you get a bad evaluation. He never had any of those things. Actually, every time he had an evaluation, they were glowing and he got promoted, like I said. So he actually was able to get more promotion or like more evaluations than what was supposed to be allowed. And they never explained how that was possible. Like he would request his own evaluations. So, he was booted from many jobs, but it was never explained why. The dates were never in his records, and he always remained at a level.
Jobs, like little old fashions.
Maybe he was bribing people. I don't know. In 2013, he receives another prison infraction, this time with a cell phone. This is the only time he lost credits. He lost 365 credits, which sounds like a lot. But the Body of a Crime podcast broke down the math and it was so confusing. So I just skipped the math part. But basically losing that many credits was nothing to him because he had so many from all of these courses he had been taking, all of these programs. And because he was serving supposed to be serving a 20-year sentence, he had so much time to earn those credits back. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like he was about to be released and, oh no. Like, so it was like nothing. And he didn't even get demoted. He was still earning credits. With this phone, he was reaching out and harassing multiple girls, all underage. He had an incident
how did he get the numbers? We don't know. Okay. He
was really big on taking advantage of other people's networks, right? So he would start talking to one girl and then ask for her friends' numbers. Or get her friends' numbers, or he would go through other inmates' stuff and get like names and stuff of people they were talking to. So he was very big on doing this, and he was always talking to multiple women at the same time. He was very manipulative. So if he wanted to reach somebody, he would figure out how to do it, right? So he had this incident where he had been talking to a girl for a few months, and she didn't know he was in prison. She had been sending him photos, and one day he sent her one, and she gets a really weird vibe because she can tell he's clearly in prison, and he hadn't told her that before. So she ends up finding out that he's in prison. She knows which prison he's at, and she's very scared. So she tells him to stop contacting her. You're in prison. I don't want anything to do with you. But he doesn't stop. So she figures out, again, what prison he's at and contacts the prison and says, hey, this inmate has been contacting me. I told him to stop. Can you please let me know when it's been handled? And guess what he did? Can you guess what he did from prison?
I can't.
He hacks her email account, her friends' emails accounts, and starts reaching out to anyone in her network. Do you know what was done about it? Absolutely fucking nothing. Nothing. Doesn't get in trouble. They're not like, how did you hack this woman's email account? How did you get access to it? Why are you doing this from prison? No, nothing. So in 2014, he became cellmates with a man named James Fleming. Somehow he gets access to all of the contacts that James has. And I'm going to talk way more about James in the next part, because James was actually the one that was originally dating Holly Guest, which is the woman that Jesse ends up marrying and was the mother of the children that are no longer here with us. So, like I said in part 2, she eventually becomes Jesse's wife. So she was originally talking to James, though, and dating James. So another inmate in prison while she was married to another man. So they're all telling... So anyways, James gets these letters from 2 women that he's talking to that say, hey, we were contacted by this man named Jesse. We don't know who he is. And that's when James realizes that Jesse had gone through his stuff and started contacting those women. So James was very scared of Jesse and complains about Jesse, and Jesse ends up actually getting moved to a minimum security prison. He doesn't stay there long, though, because he gets in trouble and gets sent back to another prison in 2016. And this case that I'm about to talk about is the case that was very unfortunate. And if this case had been handled properly, he would have been in prison, and the crime that happened in May of 2023 that I talk about in part 2 never would have happened. Those children never would have died. None of it would have ever gotten there. In 2016, Jesse starts to contact a girl named Caitlin. Now, the first time he spoke to her through the phone, he sent pictures, and she discovered he was in prison. Okay, so let me back up. The first girl that I mentioned, he talked to her, sent her pictures. She found out he was in prison. She ran him out. So this time he didn't want to send any pictures. And when he starts communicating with Caitlin, he slowly starts grooming her. She was only 15 years old at the time. She had gotten a new phone, and she believed that one of Jesse's friends had the number previously, and it was a complete coincidence.
She was 15?
She was 15. Okay. And so it was just by pure coincidence that when he was texting this phone trying to reach another woman that a different inmate had been talking to, she had just gotten this phone. She was quoted in her court case saying, he was well aware of my age from the very beginning, if not from the first conversation we had. Mostly because when she said she was 15 and that she wasn't the woman that he was trying to contact, Jesse basically said, prove it. And she sent a picture of herself to prove it. That she wasn't the woman that he was trying to reach. Again, she didn't know who he was. When you're 15, you're kind of naive. Like, I'm not blaming her. But he knew from day one that she was 15. So at one point, he teaches Caitlin how to use the dark web. He installs spyware on her phone and even told her he had sent someone to spy on her and her coworkers and knew what her coworker looked like, described them to her, and what the conversation was. So he was sending people to her job in real life. And he was using this as a control method, basically like, I know where you live, I know where you work. He would tell Caitlin so much stuff. Like, he would tell her about other women he was dating or talking to. He would tell her about other inmates, things that were happening in jail. Like, she was so in love with, like, he groomed her so well that she truly thought they were in love. So the thing was, though, she was sending him pictures and whatever else, and he would share his phone with other inmates. And he would also save any pictures that those inmates received of women for himself. And so during the year that he was talking to her, Caitlin's grandparents actually found out about it and reported him to the prison. So in 2016, Jesse ends up with another infraction for communicating with Caitlin, but ends up with a law violation when they go through the phone where they find explicit images of Jesse and Caitlin. The DA mentioned to Caitlin that there were other girls in Jesse's phone. To what purpose, I'm not sure. unless to see if she would have some insight onto who they were. Like, are they your friends? Did you know them? Are you the one that introduced them?
Maybe she wasn't being forthcoming.
Yeah.
Like, we're in love.
Yeah.
You know, like, no, it's fine. We're in love. And then they're like,
yeah. Yeah. She knew about all of these.
She knew about all the other girls.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, he told this 15-year-old all kinds of stuff. Like, trusted her with so much information. Like, he was just would write her letters and call her and just, like I said, tell her about other inmates. Now, she didn't know he was sharing his phone. I will say that.
Did they tell her that?
Well, the DA mentioned to Caitlin that there were other girls in Jesse's phone, like I said, to see if she knew.
Support kitty.
So in 2017, he has 20 additional bed moves. So in September 2017, Jesse is charged with soliciting sexual conduct with the minor with technology and possession of juvenile pornography. I'm going to skip a few years ahead because honestly, his time in prison is more or less the same. Infractions left to right, contacting victims, grooming young women, getting charged with something like child porn, and then getting a slap on the wrist. Because mind you, that case happened in 2017. He was charged with that. He was in prison. 2017. On October 30th, 2020, Jesse is released from prison after only serving 16 years of his 20-year sentence, even with all of his infractions and new charges pending. Literally, this man has 10 prison infractions, an alleged rape, a pending felony for child pornography, and they released him early for credit served. He only served 85% of his sentence or something like that is what they said. He is released. He hires this very high-end attorney. No one knows how he paid for it, but he hires him to defend him in the case with Caitlin. Excuse me. The legal defense is to delay the trial, and in the I know, I'm so sorry, it's stressing me out. The legal defense is to delay the trial. In the process of delaying the trial, he uses different avenues to try and dissuade Caitlin from testifying. Not only does Jesse try to reach out to Caitlin multiple times, his mother, LaDonna, reaches out, and the attorney. Whenever a major date for the trial was coming up, Jesse would reach out to Caitlin first and be like, hey, baby, can you, let's work this out, drop the charges. And if she didn't respond, then LaDonna would reach out and ask her to stop. They would kind of have this good cop, bad cop thing with her. And it really made Caitlin think LaDonna was on her side, when in reality they were both grooming her, and LaDonna was part of the scheme all along. Caitlin was 17 years old at this time, and she is getting contacted by these adults, and this trial just continues to get pushed back. She had no idea that LaDonna was part of the scheme with Jesse and his attorney to get her to drop the charges. She truly thought LaDonna was her friend, and it was because when Jesse was still in jail, LaDonna would actually talk to Caitlin, and they actually met in person twice and formed a friendship because Jesse had told LaDonna to do so, and LaDonna would do whatever Jesse told her to. So she had completely befriended Caitlin, and she had on several occasions tried to get Caitlin to not press charges, to, drop the case, all of that stuff. The DA never pursued any of the other victims that were found in the phone when Jesse was when he was in prison, and they took the phone. They only pursued Caitlin, and it was never explained why they didn't go after any of these other women that were in his phone, because any one of them could have testified against him. Any one of them could have been a witness, but they only targeted Caitlin, and it was never explained why. Jesse's defense, if they went to court, was going to be that Caitlin pursued him, and it was her that sent the photos, that he didn't ask for them, that she just sent them. She was the aggressor, not him. That was what he was going to claim.
What a piece of shit.
It was also found out that he had been communicating with staff while in prison and had inappropriate relationships with staff members, but he was never charged with any of that. And he didn't have a type. He would literally assault anyone, like I mentioned. And it was interesting because in a lot of his prison paperwork, when it would ask for his sexual orientation, he would put down that he was gay. He would say, I'm gay. Like, that's how he would word it. And then it wasn't until he was released that he went back to saying that he was straight. So I don't know what the purpose of that was in jail, unless it was to keep him like isolated because, he could claim he was going to be attacked for being homosexual. But when he got released,
smarter than the average bear, apparently.
So real quick timeline. November 10th, 2020, a bench warrant is issued in the Caitlyn child pornography case. November 16th, 2020, his bond is set at $25,000. November 19th, 2020, he posts bail. Since November 19th, 2020, until May 1st, 2023, he was on bond, walking free, because his jury trial was pushed several times until what was supposed to be May 1st, 2023. 5.5 years after being charged with the Caitlyn case, he still had not gone to trial. What in the actual fuck? Had he gone to trial when it happened, when he was originally charged 5 years ago, the May 2023 incident could have been prevented. He was required to register as a sex offender. However, he wasn't on probation. They did not put him on probation. They did not put him on parole. He only had to check in every 90 days. And even then it was just like, whatever. He didn't have to report it. He didn't have to report it to the neighborhood. He didn't have to report it to anybody.
But it was for a sex offense. You're just staring at me.
What?
It was for a he was a sex offender.
He was a violent sex offender. That's why he was in prison. And then he was being charged with child pornography.
But you leave prison, and if you're a violent sex offender and you leave prison, you have to report that. I mean, that's...
Correct. Yes. You are, in theory, supposed to be on parole when you're released from prison. And you are supposed to have to report.
Why wasn't he on parole?
They did not issue him parole or probation. They just
let him out?
They released him early. He was out on bail for this case with Caitlyn. And he was only supposed to check in every 90 days. He was supposed to also have home compliance visits. But according to the sheriff investigator named Jason Dawson, this is what he said. We do compliance checks, but it's like throw a dart and see which one we're going to do, because that's all the resources we have to do. The sheriff's office said in an interview that the home compliance checks are only done on sex offenders when a complaint against the person is filed. Records show only one house compliance check was ever done on Jesse, and that was in June 24th, 2022, allowing him to live in the home with the minors that were female and not tell anyone in the neighborhood he was a registered sex offender. When reporters asked if deputies actually checked the home when they did this home compliance report, the sheriff's response was, sex offenders still have rights. So unless the individual grants us permission to walk through, there's essentially nothing we can do. Even then, Sheriff Rive said if permission to walk through the home was granted, they would only allow to walk through rooms in which the doors are open. What in the actual fuck?
That's not right. That's not right.
That's a direct quote from the sheriff. So I'm sorry, but you're going to tell me when you violently and sexually assault multiple people.
The cicadas are so loud.
I know.
But yes, finish your sentence. So multiple sexual offenses, violent.
Mm-hmm. He's only been actually convicted of one. He's on trial. He's been charged with the second one. But he's not been to trial yet. So, again, it does not explain why he didn't get put on parole, why he did not get put on probation, why these home compliance checks weren't done, and why he was allowed to live in a home with minors who were in his, preferred age range, right? So, I don't understand how he had rights at all, honestly. So, in January 29th, 2023, this is just months before the tragic event that we'll discuss in part 2 happens, there was a complaint made to the county sheriff's office. It was an anonymous female that called in to express concern of Jesse living with 3 underage children. Records show that she wanted it documented and looked into. She was very frantic. Dispatcher's notes show that his information was ran through the state sex offender registry, in which Holly Guest was confirmed to be his fiance, and the 3 kids were confirmed to be hers. Nothing further was done. They've discovered, yes, he was a sex offender. Yes, he was living in a home with underage children. the same age of the children that he violently sexually assaulted. So many people failed these victims. The Department of Corrections, the judge that continued to push the trial for 5 fucking years. Are you kidding me? I'm sure COVID had some part of that because it was 2020.
It slowed everything down.
But, like,
what was his name?
Shit.
Judge what?
I'll have to go back.
Bland.
I think James Bland. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay.
And then the DA for not pursuing any other victims in the phone. Like, why did you not even attempt to contact any of these women? Why? I don't understand. So, I'm going to stop here because I could honestly go on about how disgusting this is and about how the judicial system failed them. But next week I'm going to talk about Holly because I don't feel like she deserves much sympathy and like at all. And I just need you to know why I feel that way because, just as a little bit of information was that she was fully aware of who he was. She started dating him in prison while she was married to someone else. Shortly after she had been dating and talking to another inmate that she was telling telling this other inmate she was in love with him. And then she started dating Jesse and she married him shortly after her divorce, like within the same month of her divorce, and allowed him to move in with her children. And then the things that I talk about next time that go into detail about the things that she did with him to her children that led to
she participated.
Murder. She very much enabled, very much. And I'm going to go into a lot of detail about that and the last crime that was committed and what all has unfolded since then.
This story's making the cats angry.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It made me very angry.
They are fighting. I'm gonna take a picture of that. Well, now they look like they're being cute, but really they're angry right now. Oh, my phone died. Did he have a connection to the judge, to the lawyer? Was he connected in a personal way? I mean, like, did the judge, this Bland guy, did he know Jesse from a previous life? Was he a part of maybe the clan that Jesse said he grew up in? Was he like, I feel like every step of the way there were these sort of, he's fine. Like, I almost feel like there was some personal connection to him because the judge kept postponing. It was more in the interest of the defendant to have a speedy trial because the more you wait, the more information can come out, the more evidence can come out. So you want to have a speedy trial.
So it was not so much who Jesse knew, it was who his attorneys knew. It was more of his attorney having connections in all of the right places.
So did the judge have a connection to the attorney?
That was one speculation, but he also had connections with the DA and some other, higher up people that
higher up people can be corrupt.
Yeah, and so
that was like my whole story.
Yeah, his attorney really helped keep getting this trial like pushed back over and over and over for 5.5 years. And there has been a lot of scrutiny against the Oklahoma Sheriff's Department and the DA and the court system since then because there was a lot that came out because of this trial about like not giving strict sentences, like how many sex offenders they released, not doing the home checks, not giving them parole or probation or making them check in or like 100%, checking the information.
Also just why did this guy get it so easy in jail when we know for goddamn sure that there are some people who do not have it that easy?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, like, did he just know people? But, I mean, I mean, he just know people, but why did this guy get it so easy in jail when we know for goddamn sure that there are some people who do not have it that easy? So I'm trying to figure out, like, did he just know people? But, I mean, he just know people, but why did this guy get it so easy in jail when we know for goddamn sure that there are some people who do not have it that easy? Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out, like, Because what was he giving them in return?
Yeah.
What were they getting out of it? People don't just do things.
Supposedly there was one attorney that when he was interviewed about the case, they're like, why do you think he was released when he had these charges pending and he was already in prison? And his response was that basically anytime you've got an inmate that is a felon, like serving a felony charge, and they're already incarcerated and they get another felony, that is going to go to the bottom of the priority list because they're in theory already in custody and they're not going to go anywhere. So they're not going to like try to speed up that process. They're going to go after people who aren't already incarcerated and get them in jail and then worry about the person that's incarcerated. However, that backfired in this case because then he got let out early.
They let him out.
But that was his speculation, is that his case got pushed to the bottom because he was already incarcerated at the time he was originally charged.
He was a violent sex offender against children. Why is that not moved to the top?
I'm just telling you what his opinion was on how the system at that time worked.
And I guess I'm not arguing with you. I'm just commenting on the fact that holy shit, this guy obviously has a pattern. And they didn't seem to fucking care.
Yeah. So.
Like, kids, psh, you know.
Let's
not worry about the other children.
Yeah, and the reason he got released early again is because when he was in regular jail, he had time served. He had credits for time served that were applied. And then he got his GED just because it gave him a shit ton of credits. He got so many certifications while he was in prison just for the credits. Like, he did not care about any of these things. He just wanted to get to his next victim. And however that had to happen, if it meant he had to take these classes, these courses, whatever he needed to do to get access to a phone, to a computer, to get out early, he would do it because he just, you know, sex offenders, registered sex offenders are only allowed to live with their own children or stepchildren.
Yikes.
As long as they were not the victim, as long as they were not ever attacked by that person. However, they are supposed to notify the Department of Human Services if they do, which was not done. And, again, he wasn't required to in Oklahoma, he was not required to notify his neighbors of his registration status. So
I hate all these people.
The friends of what would have been his stepchildren did not know when they sent their children to this house. They just...
For like sleepovers. Oh, God.
Nobody knew because Holly knew, she knew, her family knew. No one else knew. The kids didn't know.
Her family
knew for at least a year.
Her parents.
Yeah. They tried to say they didn't, but evidence came out that they did, in fact, know for at least a year.
And they didn't care.
Right. They said they did. Like I said, I'll talk about Holly more in this next part. Her family made a lot of claims after all of this stuff happened that she was manipulated, that she didn't know, but there was so much evidence that she didn't. She was visiting him in jail, first of all, so she clearly knew he was there. He told her about what he had did. She was registered.
Her ex was probably like, dude, do you know what he does? And I'm sure he did.
Yeah. So, it was just a lot. And that's why I was kind of making her own section in the next part, because there's just so much that she did that she enabled him to do that led to the horrific May 2023 incident. But yes, in Oklahoma, at least, because I thought here you weren't allowed to live with children, and you had to tell people. And when you get out of prison, you're on parole automatically, is what I assumed. In Oklahoma, again, he was not on probation. He was not on parole. He did not have to answer to anybody. He had to check in every 90 days. And the check-in was only to verify his address, which that was another thing. Some of the documents that he gave to verify his address had misspellings on them and all kinds of shit, like clearly faked. But again, nobody ever did anything. They claimed they didn't have the resources to keep up with that kind of stuff. So, you know, who cares if people get hurt? I guess is basically their philosophy. So
I'm so mad right now.
I know. Wait till you hear about the mother. You're gonna be so pissed off.
I am so mad right now. Like, I want to throw things, but I have nothing to throw other than my beer, this thing for the microphone, and this little piece of foam, black foam cardboard thing. It doesn't go anywhere. So I'm trying to dig a hole in it with my nail, and I'm just digging a hole in it.
Yeah, it's just, oh my God.
Listen, it's not just, you said at the beginning that it was the judicial system failed these kids, that this is 100% preventable. Yes, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. It's so much more than that. Humanity failed because I truly believe that had somebody fucking cared enough that it had nothing to do with the judicial system, that it was just fucking human apathy, that it's for whatever reason, this guy, he must have been charming as fucking
was very
hell.
manipulative. He was very good at it. I
think that people who came in, there's so many people who are just broken, and those people failed those kids.
And it wasn't even just the judicial system, as I'll talk about. CPS, the school, so many people. The only person to ever report Jesse when he after his prison release, was that neighbor that called 911 because she was terrified. I don't know how she found out he was a sex offender. I think it was one of the kids ended up finding out and telling, you know. But anyways, she was the only one to ever try to save those kids.
See something, say something. See something, say something.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'll talk more about Holly and what transpired and what the aftermath has been next week.
Well, I can't fucking wait.
Sorry.
You said I would hate the story. You're 100% right. This has been a tough couple of weeks on I think for me, the last few weeks there have been a lot of deaths here because of domestic violence, because of violence against women by people who are supposed to love them.
Yeah. There's been at least 6 or 7 in our area.
Just so many, and the need for agencies like where I work is so great, and the funding keeps going down. And you have stories like the Olympian who was set on fire by her ex-boyfriend from Kenya. 75% of her body was burned. He set her on fire. The violence is just, it's devastating.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to your story, and it's just making me want to throw shit, because it's just, these are babies. They didn't ask for this. You know, nobody asked for it, but they're babies. They don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
We're supposed to protect them.
And I'm sorry, I will say, in case you're wondering what happened to Cody, the brother.
Yeah, what happened?
When he committed that crime, he got sent to a mental institution, and that's where he remains.
Oh, so he's locked up.
I should have mentioned that when I was telling the story, because you're going to wonder where he got diagnosed and sent to a mental institution to try and work through his issues.
He's locked up.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait for part 2. I'm gonna throw to have more things to throw. I'm gonna have like squishamallows. I'll go
back to doing disappearances after this.
I'm gonna have squishamallows just so I can like throw them all over the room.
I didn't know all of this horrible background when I heard this original story.
Right. No, and I'm not obviously I'm not complaining. This is gonna be this is shit. We always top each other. You always say, I don't know how I'm gonna top that story.
Well, I'm not trying to top you.
No, I know, but we do it without even trying. Right?
But I felt like his background history was so important, because if I just tell you what the case is, you're like, oh, that's just another domestic violence situation.
Oh yeah.
And it is so much more than that, because Holly wasn't actually a domestic violence victim. And
you have to know the whole story.
Yeah, you have to know the whole picture.
Hearing, right.
Yeah, because it is just, oh my God. So anyways, I will, like I said, next week I will talk about Holly and how she played a part in everything, and then what happened and what the families are now doing. Well,
y'all see something, say something.
Yes.
Please be kind to one another. If you need us, reach out to us on Facebook. We're here. We have resources. We can get you the help you need, but please do reach out, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
About as happy as I can get.